Right, this is a video about this guy here, this black train guard omitted from history lessons, and I thought, well, I don't know who the guy is. I'm brown, considered black, and yeah, why? Well, if I can be one of the people or the voices that makes a sound that echoes what this guy has achieved, because it helps black people in the future and people in general, minorities, I guess. Then I'll do it. Let me do it. So, because this story is just going to get passed over in the mainstream, so I may as well, be an additional person who makes it permanent. Asquith Xavier, pioneer and black train guard omitted from history lessons. Family of a black train guard who overturned a racist recruitment policy at Euston railway station in the 60s has said he has been omitted from history lessons. How has he been left out? Asquith Xavier won the right to work at the station in 1966. And you know what? And if you think the atmosphere now is bad for maybe migrants or black people, because of Black Lives Matter and so on, I just imagine what the atmosphere of going to work, of like fighting for a job which is in a hostile environment. Although maybe it wasn't as hostile to blacks in '66 as they are at the moment, right now. And I think a lot of that's got to do with media. But listen, what the hell am I doing? Let me read this article. Asquith won the right to work at the station in 1966, but received hate mail and death threat. Okay, it's pretty bad then. Granddaughter Camelia Xavier Shuhota said he had paved the way for us. Well, no doubt about that. Death threats is pretty bad. His story is omitted from the national curriculum. She said, I don't think people in Chatham know about him. I think he's such a positive example and one we really need at the moment. Xavier Shihota said ahead of the centenary of his birth on 18th of July. I take it he's not still with us. It'd be amazing if he was. Mr. Xavier, who lived in Chatham, Kent, worked as a guard at Marylebone station, and in 1966 applied for a promotion at Euston. The gall of it, the gall of the man. He's got brown skin and he dares to apply for a promotion. Who does he think he thinks he's human? He thinks he's a human being. Where guards were paid an extra £10 a week. Wow. I mean, I've no appreciation of how much money was worth back then, to be fair. So it could have been a lot. Well, it probably was a lot more than £10 today. At the time, the station was operating a white-only recruitment policy, a ban enforced by the local unions and station management, until Mr. Xavier demanded change. That absolute, I was going to say balls on this guy. Well, I just have, but the absolute, go on, lad, look at him there, and he bloody won. Go on, my son. Well deserved, and there's the white guy there saying well done. Mr. Xavier refused to accept a white-only hiring policy at Euston Station. That's really an important event. That's a really important turning point, isn't it? You know what I mean? Like, who does that? It's like the British version of Rosa Parks. You know what I mean? I hate comparing things, but it's an equivalent type of like an unprecedented event, really, in terms of taking a stand against what you think is right and what really seems self-evidently morally right. If ever, if such a thing exists, then this would be a prime example. His story made its way into Parliament, and then Secretary of State for Transport Barbara Castle As a result of his action, on 15th of July 1966, British Railways announced colour bars at London stations had been scrapped. Makes me want to look into what colour bar is. Is that like a black only pub? No, actually, sorry, bar isn't ban. Okay, so that's not so good. When he began work, he continued to face racist abuse. You can imagine the type of shit this guy would have got starting on his first day job from his co-workers, like just random strangers in the street. I mean, like, it just makes me wonder. He must have been like married or had maybe had this really solid family that was totally behind him. It makes me wonder, like, this guy must have had something steadfast, or maybe he was like, completely devoted religious guy, devoted to his God and so on. But there must have been something. He must have been getting some sort of strength from somewhere. When he began working for, I just said that. I already said that. I feel an overwhelming sense of pride when I speak about him, but it's bittersweet because he paid the ultimate price for it, said Miss Xavier. The years of stress and strain, the abuse he got from the public, it all had a detrimental effect on his life. I can imagine the poor bastard. Do you know what I mean? And you're just thinking, is it worth it? Oh, right, look at this. She said her grandfather was compared to Rosa Parks. Well, you just can't help but do that. The iconic figure of the US civil rights movement that no one really knows about him. Well, I hope more do. I hope there's a little biopic gets made about him. Mr. Xavier, who died in 1980, was part of the Windrush generation. Wow. Okay, moving to England from Dominica after World War II. He believed that black people's lives, I'm sure it's just a typo, he believed that black people's lives mattered equally. So, Mr. Xavier said, oh, it's at the end. Okay. No, he wanted equal opportunities and equality of life, and he is a positive example of how the pen is mightier than the sword. It's what's important here is that, like, things that are taken for granted, at some point in the past, there must have been a precedent set. Like someone's taken a stand to make a correction in the system, and you can obviously at great cost. At what cost we don't know, because you just don't, and that's the whole point. I guess why I'm doing this. This is like, you know what I mean? Absolutely infinitesimally insignificant in terms of like the scale of my voice and how many people are gonna know about this. But it's beside the point. It needs to be done. People just if it's because there's no one else. Who else does it? Like, who else would have stood up, challenged that whites only policy at Euston Station, which then paved the way for just blacks being treated as just like regular staff in the future. Who does that? Someone has to do that. And who are these people? So this guy needs to be included in the curriculum. It's just the name, just a person, but it's what he also stands for, and what he stands for, and what that hope that gives others in the future. So that's what I think.